Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to a new video. Hope you guys have all had a great week. Looking forward to the weekend. It is Friday night and Newcastle have their final game before we head into the international break. It's been a hell of a few weeks. The win against Arsenal, the trip to Old Trafford, the trip to Dortmund was sensational, except for the result. But we are hoping Newcastle will get a result tomorrow night when we take on Bournemouth down at the Vitality Stadium. Eddie Howe has been on and did his press conference today that we will talk about in this video. He's spoken about Ruben Neves and the potential changes coming to Newcastle dealing with Saudi Arabian sides. He also mentioned the possibility of a return for the winger Yakuba Minteh. He's not ruling it out this January window, and obviously we'll go through the full preview, lineups and predictions. So let me know your predictions for Newcastle's game against Bournemouth tomorrow night down in the comments. But as always, we'll talk a little bit about Bournemouth first. Call it the Eddie Howe Mad Dog Derby if you like. Eddie Howe was questioned on the game we played against them this time last season where we drew down at the Vitality Stadium. Said it was a tough game then and expects it to be a tough game tomorrow, but always goes into games looking for a win. He was actually asked, would a win be a great way to kind of come back after the loss against Dortmund, to finish on a high as we go into that 2-week break? He said he always goes into games to win, but actually spoke about the fact that when we played them last time, we had injury troubles. This time, we've got injury troubles again. But I'll tell you what I love about Eddie Howe. He doesn't use it as an excuse. He actually says, in the Dortmund game, he believes we had what it took to win. Like, he doesn't hide behind it and go, oh, well, if we'd had this... Who am I impersonating there? A previous manager, maybe. Well, if we had this player and that player, then maybe we could have done this. Eddie Howe doesn't do that. Eddie Howe says, even with the injuries, we had the squad, we had the team available, and had we been at our best, we could have beaten Dortmund. And he's saying, that we can beat Bournemouth if we are at our best again. And I'm hoping that Eddie Howe, despite the injuries, despite probably some mental and physical drains on the players after having played so many games with so few players and rotations, that we will have the quality to see us through in this one. Bournemouth have had a tough start of the season. They've been thrashed off Man City and Liverpool in the last 2 games. They're sitting third bottom at the moment. It'll be interesting to see whether they can get above that line come the end of the season. And I think they will give us a good game, but I'm hoping we have it in our locker to take the win. And if I'm totally honest, that was about the only question Eddie Howe was asked of the whole press conference about the actual match. Everybody else was asking questions on the news coming out or reported that Premier League teams will vote to stop teams who have the same owners being able to trade, sell, loan players between the two. I think he was asked that question about 7 different times in about 7 different ways, and he answered it the same in about 7 different ways, basically saying, I think at one point he said, look, we want to be competitive on the pitch, we want to make sure we do our job on the pitch, but you're asking me questions off the pitch that I don't have a whole lot of control over. He did speak on the fact that Ruben Neves is obviously a player that we've been linked with. He's kind of the player that has caused this kind of controversy, if you will. I think it's probably what has sparked this kind of Premier League vote as to whether Newcastle can or cannot trade players with Saudi Arabia. Eddie Howe said he liked him as a player, but that was really as much as he could comment on. It's funny, because Dan Ashworth, of anything, started this whole thing. Dan Ashworth said in his previous interview, if we wanted to trade with Saudi Arabia, it's something we can look at. Now, you could look at it and go, hang on, has Dan Ashworth just, could he have just kept himself quiet until the 1st of January and then just done it? Or even did the deal now and then let it come out in the 1st of January? I think Dan Ashworth's cleverer than that. I do think that if this was a road we were going down, as I mentioned in my previous video, I don't think Dan Ashworth had his list of players going, ooh, this is my list of players in Saudi Arabia. I'd love this one, and I'd love that one, and I'd love that one. You know what I should do? Tell the world that's what we're going to do. No. You know, I think Dan Ashworth is cleverer than that. So, yes, in terms of is that a player we like, Eddie Howe said he does like him, and he said that, you know, I'll trade with any league. You know, I'll trade with any team, any league. If it's a player to bring in to make our side better, then I'm happy to do it. And that's very Eddie Howe, isn't he? He was never going to really push the boat out too much with answers on stuff that's kind of off the field and like he said, out of his jurisdiction. But yes, he was asked about that quite a lot. But another player he was asked about was Yakuba Minteh. Now, we know he's currently out on loan at Feyenoord. It's been a player that has been quite highly publicised. You remember when we brought in Gran Kowal? Obviously, he's out doing his loan spells as well. Minteh was a little bit different because we did kind of pay that £7 million for really someone who's young and a little bit unknown, but has gone to Feyenoord, has done a great job, and it's kind of this ongoing circle of, could Newcastle bring him back? Well, Eddie Howe was asked about it, and he did say that it's something that he would consider. Eddie Howe said he will consider all current players out on loan, and if there's a possibility to bring them back to help the squad, he's not against doing it. He did go on to say that he's actually injured at the moment, and if I'm not mistaken, he's actually back in Newcastle having an assessment done as to where he is on that injury. Presumably, or hopefully, he's going to be alright, and we'll send him back over there, and then Eddie Howe can make a judgment call closer to the January window. But it's good to hear that Eddie Howe is open to the idea, but he was also very rightly forthcoming and saying there is also a bit of a difference, you know, between the Premier League and the Eredivisie, or the team over in the Netherlands. So I think he was praising the player. He said he has done very well. He has been scoring goals. It's very successful over there. But I think, as we all kind of know, it is a big jump. And as much as Newcastle could do with all the help it could get in terms of numbers and players, we don't want to take him away from where he's really succeeding and drop him into a league that maybe he isn't ready for. So Eddie Howe hasn't ruled it out. It is a possibility. But whether it's going to happen this January, we will have to wait and see. And he did also go on to say, in terms of the January window, that he hasn't made any lists just yet. He hasn't quite made his list of what he's planning on doing in terms of, as I mentioned, Ruben Neves, Minteh and all this kind of stuff. He is probably going to say that anyway. And I think he's probably right, because in terms of injuries, which he also came on to, in great news, it sounds like Barnes is actually making some great progress, which is very positive. Isak is looking fit. Whether he's fit in time for tomorrow, I shouldn't imagine so, along with Botman as well, who's also being assessed at the moment. And I think this is what we'll come on to in the lineups in a moment. I would imagine that Eddie Howe will be cautious and let those guys have 2 more weeks off. I would really, really be upset if we rushed an Isak back for a game like this, for him to get injured again and be waiting even longer. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Wilson. You know, he gets the time out and he has time to rest and he's properly managed. He is an absolute sensational player for us. And we're constantly wheeling him back out again 2 weeks too soon is when all of the issues start. And I don't want that to start happening with Isak either. So leave them be. But on that note, we can't really plan for January until we kind of know where everybody is. So we will have to wait and see, but it does sound like Eddie Howe will be looking this January window. And I think we have to be honest, as we get on to the lineups. So let me know your lineups down in the comments below. It has gone with who's available, really. And I will probably have 3 goalkeepers on the bench again for this one. But in goal, I have gone for Nick Pope. Centre-backs, Lascelles, Shaw. Right-back, I don't think Trippier's maybe had the best couple of games of late, but I think Trippier still probably keeps his space over Livramento, unless Eddie Howe goes, you know what, Bournemouth away? Is there room to possibly give Livramento a game? Is there room for Miley to have a game? Is there room to really mix it up in this one? I think it's more likely that he starts with Trippier for 45 minutes, then brings Livramento on later. I've put Hall at left back. You might argue that we should go Trippier left back, Livramento right back, which is also very possible. But I just feel like there's so many players out. There's so much change. The one thing that you can kind of nail on is that you just put Trippier right back. You know, there's already like 7 or 8 players who are kind of being made to play here, and Lascelles and Shaw, it's not Botman, and then, you know, there's no Bruno this week because of his suspension, and then there's quite a lot of that at the minute, whereas you can go Trippier, captain, well, it's Lascelles, isn't it? But yeah, Trippier, right back, when he knows what he's doing, put him there. So we'll wait and see. In the midfield, as I've mentioned, there is no Bruno because of the suspension, so it is Joelinton, it is Longstaff. Those two guys must be dying for a sit-down and a cup of tea, I think, because they have been running their socks off for the last 2 weeks. We just don't have the depth in there. I have put them both in, and I've put Joe Willock in there as well. Hopefully Joe Willock is the man to keep the energy going across that middle three and bursting through and scoring goals like he did against Manchester United. Eddie Howe was asked about Lewis Miley and as to whether he will be a big part for Newcastle, and he said yes. He answered it quite well, because he didn't say yes, the immediate future, Lewis Miley, he's our man. Don't want to put that pressure on someone so young. It was, he will be a big part of Newcastle United for now and, you know, years to come. You know, it's not like a, right, let's lump all the pressure on him now. It was, yes, he will be a big part of it. Does that mean that you'll get a start tomorrow? You know what it is? I actually won't rule it out. I actually thought and I'm still coughing from Dortmund, I actually thought that when he came on against Dortmund, he was great. He actually, in a game where we were chasing and didn't have too much going for us, he came on and played well. And that's what I mean, against the Bournemouth side away from home, maybe it's a great chance to give him a go. We saw when he played against Chelsea then last season, absolutely rocked it. If you can do it there, I'm pretty sure you can do it in a game against a struggling Bournemouth side right now. But it just depends whether Eddie Howe wants to go in with the tried and tested, and then if we're 1-0 up at half time, get Miley on after that. I have put Gordon on the left and I have put Miggy on the right. That was one thing we didn't have in Dortmund in the first half, was recognised wingers, so I think it's important that we start strong with them this time round, and I have put Wilson up front. Wilson has been struggling with injuries. He's been called up for the England squad. Unlike Gordon, unlike Longstaff, I think it's mad, to be honest, but it's Gareth Southgate. The only thing I can say about Gareth Southgate is that, and what he has said, is he's had that same group of players for 8 years. You look at Jordan Henderson playing in frickin' Saudi Arabia, and Calvin Phillips, who can't get a game for his own club. I mean, it's absolutely madness that Gordon, after winning the with the under-21s England, having an absolute stormer for Newcastle, is clearly a breakthrough player right now, isn't getting in. But what Gareth Southgate is there's 4 games till the tournament, and that's the team that he's chosen. So it frustrates the hell out of us, but I can see some method in his madness, and it means that Gordon can have a nice 2-week break for us, and he'll be back with a bang. Wilson, on the other hand, sounds like he's getting called up, so I don't know if that might, for qualifications that we've already got. So I partially think that he may pull out, or if he does go, you know, he's still going to have some of the best physios and some of the best coaches over there. It's not like they're going to make him. Well, I hope that Wilson doesn't push himself too hard, is what I'll probably say. But yes, that is my lineup. Let me know your thoughts on it down below. Do you reckon Eddie Howe might make more changes? Do you think Miley could play? Do you think Wilson maybe given time to rest? Do you think Gordon could go into the middle? Is it Livramento over Trippier for you? You let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know your thoughts on whether something could happen with a Ruben Neves, and do you think it's worth looking at a Yakuba Minteh to bring back? Or is that something that really he should be left alone, doing a good job? We'll concentrate on what we've got right now, with the likes of Barnes coming back, hopefully not before long. Maybe pulling him out of there isn't necessary. Alright guys, thanks for watching. As always, enjoy your Friday night, enjoy the weekend. Hopefully it's a win. Drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. Very close to 45,000 subscribers. If you're still watching 15 minutes later and you haven't hit that button, get it clicked. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.